Hey VC, what's up? It's me, yours truly. I am back to post a quick video here. My fourth response to Adam Lee's 80s or favorite 80s male artists. Of course, with the 80s, there were so many for me to choose from, so I divided up into a number of different videos. My first one was New Wave and Pop. The second one was metal slash hair metal slash hard rock. And then last night I did 80s R&B, my favorite male artist there. So tonight I'm going to do my favorite 80s male hip-hop artist, my, I guess, kind of top 10. I got a few honorable mentions I'm going to show, but then I was actually able to kind of narrow it down the top to a 10. And keep in mind, as a refresher, if you haven't seen my other videos, I'm picking the artists that I was really into back then when I was in junior high, grade school, or whatever. I'm not picking necessarily things I've discovered along the way that I know about now that I love, but strictly what was getting a ton of play in my cassette deck back then. So that's why you might discover there's a few groups that are left off here. So one I didn't pull out and I totally should have, and it would be in my top 10, maybe the 11th one, was LL Cool J's Bigger and Deffer. I only have it on cassette, I don't have the vinyl, so I need to get a copy of that at some point in time. But that was definitely an album that I played to no end. So let me go through and kind of do the honorable mentions of the ones that I have to just say something about, even though I couldn't figure out how to put them in the top 10. We'll start with Eric B. and Rakim, Paid in Full. So the song Paid in Full itself is probably renowned as one of the top 20 just rap hip-hop songs of all time. Not to mention, Eric B, I think is definitely one of the best MCs of all time, so classic album there. X-Clan's another good honorable mention. We shared this tape like crazy back in high school on those basketball road trips. Awesome group. Basically what they did was they just took all of the hot beats, if you will, back then, just sampled everything and then put kind of a back to Africa, pro-black type of lyrics and stuff on top of it. You can kind of see the band right there. So it just had all the best beats that were around at the time. And in my last video I kept talking about Roger and Zapp and More Bounce to the Ounce and how everyone samples from them. I mentioned like 4 or 5 groups. Here's another one, because Heed the Word of the Brother was another note-for-note sample of Roger and Zapp's More Bounce to the Ounce. So, great classic album for me there. Dougie Fresh and the Get Fresh crew. This isn't the album, I pulled out the wrong one, but his crew wrote a song called The Show. Dougie Fresh, Slick Rick, and Dana Dane. And to me, I have to mention that because The Show, to me, the name of the song is The Show, is the greatest hip-hop track ever laid down. Not my favorite, but if aliens came to Earth and said, explain to me what this hip-hop thing is, I would hand them a copy of The Show. It's just perfect hip-hop. But moving right along, another honorable mention, 2 Live Crew. I mean, if you had a $900 car with a $1,200 stereo system in the back of it back in high school, you had this cassette somewhere in your car at some point in time. Just the bassy, crazy, more party slash, sexually explicit lyrics and stuff like that. So it was getting nasty with them, but long before, not long, but kind of before the more of the shoot 'em up bang bang stuff kind of came out. Again, back when hip hop was about fun and dancing right there. Heavy D and the Boys, Living Large. Great stuff. Definitely one of my favorite albums by Heavy D here. Chunky but funky, Mr. Big Stuff. A lot of great tracks here. And on his other album that I have, he has a song called More Bounce to the Ounce, which was sample for sample. More Bounce to the Ounce by Roger and Zapp. So another group that sampled that song. Like I said, you find Roger and Zapp all over hip hop. That song, The Show I was just talking about, greatest hip hop song. This was one of the artists that was on that record, and then they kind of did their solo thing as well as Slick Rick. But Dana Dane with Fame, this was his solo album. And it's just, again, one of my favorites from back in high school, so gotta give that an honorable mention. Everybody knows Kool Moe Dee, of course. He was one of the artists that was there when hip hop was really becoming kind of bigger, more towards mainstream, right there with LL Cool J and all those guys in their younger years. Most people tend to know him with songs like How You Like Me Now and Wild Wild West, like what's playing right now. But this was actually my favorite album by him, his earlier release. Songs like Go See the Doctor, you know, Dumb Dick, Do You Know What Time It Is? But my favorite song off of this is The Show. Not The Show, I'm sorry, The Best. That's the name of the song, is The Best. And I love that song so much because back then I used to be into the whole freestyling thing, you know, the tricks on the bike and all that. And the very first show I ever rode in, that's the song I rode to, was The Best. So every time I see this album or hear that song, it takes me all the way back to my first freestyle contest. I got second place too, so I didn't do too bad. First hip hop concert I ever seen, I kind of put these two together. MC Hammer and Oaktown 357. This is a great album. In fact, I listened to a couple songs this day when I was driving to work. Just great stuff. It was a perfect combination of the hip hop thing as well as kind of a dance type feel to it. And MC Hammer was actually an entertainer. You know, he can actually get on stage and perform and entertain you as well as just the music that you like, which is something you don't see as much in hip hop anymore, or rap music in general. So yeah, MC Hammer and of course Oaktown 357. Like I said, first concert I ever saw and completely blew my mind. I might actually break this up into two videos. Easy Does It. You gotta throw that in there. You know, Boys in the Hood. We Want Easy. Just again another classic album in that time period where the more nastier stuff started coming to the forefront. There are three groups that I kind of say are the epitome of what really brought hip hop out into the forefront. You know, there's some more underground stuff that, you know, people in New York and stuff like that could probably point out because that was really kind of more where a lot of that flourished. But in terms of just really kind of bringing it to the scene and pushing it, if you will, the Sugar Hill Gang, Rapper's Delight, that was a classic that did that. The second song I would put in that in group is Grandmaster Flash, and the Furious Five. The song The Message. You know, Don't Push Me because I'm close to the edge. I mean, that is just a classic track that just really kind of brought to the forefront, this is what hip hop is and this is what it's going to be. So classic tune that I have to at least mention as an honorable mention. Same thing with the Egyptian Lover on the Nile. The song Egypt. I didn't stutter, that's the name of the song. Again, classic track that just, another one of those voice box things that just totally blew my mind. So awesome stuff. Excuse me, then Perfect Timing here too. Song Computer Age just came on. The Nucleus. You know, again, just one, I don't know if you wouldn't call them necessarily a rap group, but just kind of that whole funky electric breakdance and stuff and everything else, they nailed it. So this song, which is called Computer Age, is on this album, but their best jam is without question Jam On It. Matter of fact, I'm gonna skip over here really quick so you can hear that, because this song is nice, but let's see here. Oh, give me a break. There we go. Jam On It. This song is definitely the track on this album. So there was no way I could make a video like this without at least mentioning that as an honorable mention. And of course, Ice-T, I Got the Power. That's what the lyric he says in the song. The name of the album is Power. So kind of Ice-T and towards the earlier part of his career. Again, right at that stage before the whole shoot 'em up bang bang stuff kind of started to work its way into rap music. But this is a really great album, you know, Power, Drama, I'm Your Pusher, High Rollers, Grand Larceny, just a ton of great songs on this album. And definitely one I played a lot in high school. All right, So now I'm going to go through my top 10 really quick. Might not say as much about them, but again, from where I'm thinking about back in those days, these were my top 10 rap/hip hop albums. Fat Boys, pretty much their whole collection, but specifically this album. Can You Feel It? Human Beatbox, Don't You Dog Me, but especially the title track, Fat Boys, slamming. I cannot put this album on today and listen to that song without getting up and dancing. It's just perfect old school hip hop. I don't have to say anything about these guys either. I mean, Run DMC, they were really, I've always said, the group that took hip hop to the whole, just mainstream out to everyone. So yeah, King of Rock, Can You Rock It Like This? You're blind. If you can't see, you need to wear sunglasses like DMC. My favorite lyric by them, probably on any of their albums. Rolling Stone magazine at least had the taste to put this in their top 500 albums of all time. I think it has to be listed as one of the top 10 hip-hop albums of all time, period. Public Enemy, Takes a Nation, a Million to Hold Us Back. I can't even describe what this album is. When you talk about a group just doing something so different and beyond what everyone else was doing at the time or has done since, you just have to listen to this one to get a feel for the genius in that album. EPMD, Strictly Business. This is an album that I mentioned in my hard rock / metal video when I said between that Van Halen 5150 and there was another album that for a few months it was the only 2 cassettes I played. This was the other cassette I was talking about. Old school funk type beats just laid down on just smooth lyrics. And again, the song You Got to Chill, note for note sample of Roger and Zapp's More Bounce to the Ounce. So I mean, another group to mention about it. But definitely one of my favorites. The third song that I mentioned that kind of, brought all thing hip hop to the forefront for me. Africa Bambaataa, Soul Sonic Force, Planet Rock, the jam of all jams. Next to Rapper's Delight, it was the first hip hop type thing I ever heard. My cousin Theron, his mom bought him, I remember if it was a single or the entire album, as well as a 45 single of Blondie's Rapture. And I know we spent 2 days straight listening to those 2 songs and nothing else. And this just for me just set the marker of what all hip hop should be. I mean, that is just a classic. Too Short. Again, if you had a $900 car, $1,200 sound system, you had some type of Too Short tape somewhere near your tape deck. All kinds of classic stuff. There's literally 4 or 5 different albums I could have pulled out with Too Short. But this is definitely the one I listened to the most back then. Life is Too Short and I Ain't Trippin'. I can't tell you how many times I played those 2 songs. Now, I showed Eric B. and Rakim's Paid in Full earlier, which is probably their most renowned album by them and in the world of hip-hop in general. But this is my favorite album by them. And again, the one that I played a ton of back in the day. To this day, for that matter. Follow the Leader, with songs like Follow the Leader, Microphone Theme. Fantastic album, definitely my top 10. UTFO, they kind of came out early 80s to mid 80s before hip hop really took off. So this is one of the first bands that, even though some of those other songs introduced me to hip hop, this is one of the first groups where I actually kind of followed them. Song to song, album to album, look for their new stuff, had a bunch of their stuff. And they did a lot of collaborations with a girl called Roxanne, sometimes referred to as the real Roxanne. So she had some solo stuff, they did stuff together, and they would have different things on their albums, like where they would actually talk to each other. They would do a song on their album and she would answer on her album, and it was kind of a cool thing. But definitely the great days of kind of the breakdancing type hip hop, long before Shoot 'em Up Bang Bang and all that crap came into play. DOC, fantastic album from front to back. I think one of the best rap / hip hop albums ever made, without question. It's getting funky, the formula, mind blowing, all kinds of stuff on there. And for me, the #1 hip hop album of all time, Whodini's Escape, in terms of what I was digging back then. Arguably, I could maybe even say to this day with everything I know. 5 Minutes of Funk, Friends, We Are Houdini, absolute perfection. So there you go, VC. I'm going to try to stop before the 15-minute mark. As always, thanks for watching, and let me know what you think.